Hey guys, Zen here, and today I wanted to give you guys my 3 beginner tips for the newer player of Rainbow Six Siege. With Operation Chimera in full effect and the mid-season reinforcements just around the corner, there are a bunch of new players in the game and a bunch more coming. So I wanted to share some tips in case you happen to be a noob, which is totally okay because there are a lot of new people experiencing this game every single day. If not, and you're a veteran Siege player, these tips may serve as a refresher, but more importantly, leave your tips in the comment section because I'm sure you guys know a ton more than I do in some aspects, so I'd love to hear what you've got. But starting off with tip number 1, and it's to choose your first few ops very carefully. Rainbow Six Siege is becoming a much more complex game, and the operators that are being introduced with every season are starting to evolve and really switch up the dynamic of the game. Now, even though you might be tempted to just jump in with the new season, buy the new ops, and go crazy, the reality is that some of these ops aren't very new player friendly, while others are extremely easy to start off with. So here are 3 recommendations for ops on both attack and defense to start off with. Sledge, Finka, and Thermite on attack, with Rook, Ella, and Capkin on defense. All of these ops are pretty straightforward and serve one clear purpose on the team, so if you are a new player, you won't have to think or research too hard before you get started with them. I wanted to include this tip because as someone who's been playing for a few years now, it can be daunting picking your first few ops, and if you pick ops that aren't easily understood at first, you could be taking on more than is necessary when you first start. There's so much to learn with Siege, like maps and angles and all kinds of different strategies when you first start playing, so hopefully this tip can help ease that pain just a little. Now, this is easily one of my most asked questions and comments that I see all the time, are people asking what ops they should buy. They're brand new to the game, they want to know who they should get, who's going to support their team best, and how their certain playstyle may reflect that, and so this tip goes a long way with trying to help out some of you guys that always have that question. But moving on, our second tip is to always use your drone. This is something even high-level players don't utilize, and it's such an important tip in the long run. On attack, your only other line of sight is your drones. You get 2 of them, and once they get destroyed, you're basically just gonna go through a level hoping you get the jump on an enemy and hoping that you see them first. Take the time to stop, throw out a drone, and check to make sure that your next 100 steps or so are clear. Those that fail to do this or don't use it enough will always find it harder to push as an attacker. To be honest, this is one of the toughest transitions from other shooters to Siege. You don't drone out in most other shooters, and in this game it's so core to your overall success as an attacker, it just has to be here so that if you are new, you can develop a good habit early on. This also applies to defense by making sure you're using your cameras, and that goes double time if you have a Valkyrie on your team. Valkyrie is a defender that comes with the black eye cameras, which she can throw around the map to gain additional intel on the enemy. No matter what, take the few seconds you need to just cycle through the cams and set yourself up for a much more satisfying kill. Especially early on in a round, it can be really important to know which cams the attackers are shooting out because then you know exactly what angle they're coming from, and it can also be a really important tip because some of your most important roaming defenders rely on them heavily, like Chimera and Vigil. So again, to be clear, a good operator uses drones and cams. It's a major key. The third and final tip is to anchor. This may be a strange one, I'm aware, but 90% of the time a new player will basically just spawn in and bolt out a door, flinging gadgets in every direction. It's very rare you'll see a new player reinforce and bunker down. It's actually a very noob thing to do if you start roaming on maps you don't have a complete understanding of or aren't super familiar with. Take the time to put up your 2 reinforced walls. If you're not sure where to put them, ask a teammate where they'd like them up. Make sure to put some of your gadgets down in the objective as well. Now, you don't want to put down all of your gadgets in the objective necessarily, but always make sure you're supporting your team by doing your part on site. Then, especially if you're not familiar with the map, find a nice spot and anchor down, or just hold down the objective with a buddy and practice on your angles. Most times, new players come from other shooters. You don't usually hear that Siege is someone's first shooter, and so most times those players will be tempted to bring those old habits into this totally different experience. A lot of the time in other shooters, you'll just spawn in and it becomes all about the kill count. You run around, look for the enemy, and spray them down. You've got to be a lot more methodical here, and that transition is where I see most new players getting stuck. Take your time to learn the game before you go trying things you see on the internet, and I can almost guarantee you'll always have a better time playing. Anchoring is a very necessary aspect of this game, and if you learn how to do it properly early on, you will always bring value to your team. But that's it, guys. Those are my 3 beginner tips tips for noobs just starting out. Now I want to hear from you. Are you a new player to Siege experiencing those initial growing pains, or are you a veteran with a few more tips to share? Leave it all in a comment down below. If you did enjoy this video, please drop a like and subscribe with notifications if you're new. With that being said, it's been Zen.
Hey, I'm out.